Hey, Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
I had to play that one for you. Yeah, so you went to a Pride event at the Nationals game this week. I saw that on your Twitter.
I did. I've been to a lot of Pride over the last. It's only 16 days into June, but I've been at something like every other day.
I was going to say we've had 2 weeks of Pride here in LA. Or I guess 3 weeks. You said, Chris, that Venice Pride was that first weekend too?
Yeah.
So, it's Pride-a-Palooza out here in Los Angeles. And there's still Long Beach Pride to come next month. And San Diego Pride for those of us who enjoyed that sort of thing as well. So, anyways. So, Carl, how was it going to the game? What was the atmosphere and everything like there for that?
I mean, it was great. It's always good to be at a Nationals game for a night out.
Yeah.
They've been doing it. I think it was our 15th year this year, and I think I've been to just about all of them. And so it was good. It was good seeing friends, being out and about. We had our Pride parade and festival the weekend before.
Okay.
And then, even here in the suburbs, we've started having Pride events. So, it's been fun being able to go to those two in Reston and Mosaic and other places around my district. So it's been great.
And I'm glad to hear that it's like these have been good events and it hasn't been like what we saw last weekend in Coeur d'Alene or at Drag Queen Story Hour up in the Bay Area over the weekend. And that's kind of what I wanted to get in to talk to you about, because I mentioned yesterday on the show, do you feel any apprehension going to events like the Pride game at for the Nationals or these local events? Because I was years ago, I was in San Diego for Pride, and they threw it was one of my first Prides down there, and they threw a group threw a tear gas grenade at the PFLAG contingency. And for those of you who don't know PFLAG is the Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. And that is like one of the nicest groups that you can see at any Pride. These are like the supportive, proud parents. And they threw a tear gas canister into the parade route. And the next year at our parade, we had literally a block from my house in San Diego, there were snipers on top of a building watching that area, because that was the same area that was tear gas the year before. So that's why I wanted to ask you, Carl. Have you ever been to a Pride event or seen any kind of violence like that at a Pride event?
No, but it's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
I remember, gosh, has it been 10 years or 8 years or how many years has it been since Pulse?
It hasn't been 10.
No, it hasn't been 10. I want to say it's 8 years. It was 26.
I remember being at Pride the morning after that happened.
Yeah.
I think that was a Friday night, and that was scary. And in 2019, the last Pride parade we had in person, that wasn't virtual until this one, was cut short because there was people thought that there was a shooting. And so people started running, and they couldn't get everything back in order for a parade while they tried to figure out what was going on. So I've certainly been at Pride events. I've certainly seen the protesters.
Yes.
They're usually comical.
We all see those protesters.
Yeah,
we enjoy making fun of them as the floats go by.
Yeah.
But
they're
make no mistake,
the gays will burn in hell kind of thing.
Yeah. But they're at everything that's
exactly.
Gay. So. Make no mistake, this is a concerted effort on the right to try and gin up, base support in elections, and it has consequences.
Yeah. Well, I think I think a lot of it is all interconnected. I start out talking about this 1776 returns plan that the Proud Boys put out, and saying that they understood the assignment. I think that these groups that we're seeing show up, whether it's Patriot Front in Idaho or other protest groups that we're seeing around the country right now, they're understanding the assignment because they're listening to what the leaders are saying, like people like Ron DeSantis with Don't Say Gay, and how drag shows are suddenly, and a drag show in a park is a different thing than a drag show in a nightclub. A drag show for kids is designed for kids and to be family friendly. But these guys are hearing the talking points coming out from political leaders and this talk of grooming and things like that, and they're understanding the assignment. We need to show up at these events and we need to scare people.
It's certainly putting out misinformation that is harmful, but this has been part and parcel with the movement for generations.
Yes,
The year
absolutely.
I was born in 1978 in California, there was a ballot measure called the Briggs Initiative, Prop 6, that sought to forbid LGBTQ people or people who supported LGBTQ people from working in schools in any capacity. It didn't pass by a very, it was not a great margin, but it didn't pass. But nonetheless, that was followed by decades of attacks at the ballot box on LGBTQ people.
Sure.
And the rhetoric has always been far harsher than what they put in their commercials. The Falwells, the Pat Robertsons, all of it. And now you've got the Boberts and others. So
what's worrying me right now is it seems like physical intimidation is getting more and more prominent, like what happened in Idaho, like what happened at the Drag Queen Story Hour. That's what's worrying me. And, there are some states that just completely refuse to tamp down on this sort of thing.
Right.
That's worrying me.
Well, and silence encourages it too.
Yes.
I've never met braver people than the LGBT community, though.
Right.
We're not going to back down.
No.
We've made tremendous progress by not backing down.
Exactly.
Look, it's only been a couple decades since the community had to confront the existential crisis of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And we were dying, and we didn't back down.
Right.
So, if I had to bet money, I would bet on the community. And I would not bet on the bigots.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you were talking about, you're talking about like not backing down and us being courageous and whatnot. The Pulse nightclub shooting you were talking about, that was actually on a Saturday night because it was the same for us here in LA.
Yeah,
LA
it was the
Saturday.
night before our
It was
parade.
before our festival.
Yeah,
Right.
it was the night before our parade the next day, which is always on a Sunday.
And we've talked about it here
Yeah.
on the show. Dylan and I, we host a parade party because we live one block from the parade route. It's kind of like an open house. And I remember us waking up that morning and thinking to ourselves, do we cancel our party? Is there going to be a parade today? What's the tone going to be like out there? And then it was like, no, we're not canceling. We're going to be together with our friends because that's who we feel the most comfortable and the safest around. And
there's this whole notion of chosen family, right? And anybody who's in the LGBTQ community understands what that means. We rely on each other, and we rely on our allies too. And our allies have our backs.
Yep.
If anything, what this is telling people who aren't in the know is that our rights and the issues that face our community were not solved with a Supreme Court case giving us the right to marry.
Right.
That there are still a multitude of issues that we have to tackle. If you actually want your LGBTQ friends and family and neighbors and colleagues to have the same rights and responsibilities as you, then you need to keep working until they can walk down the street one day holding hands without second guessing it. There's a famous TED Talk where the speaker talks about how they have never once held hands with a partner without thinking first.
Yeah.
I can concur with that. I feel the same way now that I think about it. It depends. Even
when you're outside of your own neighborhood where you feel safe, you absolutely think about it, whether it's appropriate to do that or not.
Well, you think, is that person walking towards us? Who is that person?
Yep.
Am I in an okay place?
Yeah.
Is somebody going to drive around the corner and yell at us?
And that's
all of these things, and it is instinctual. It is immediate, and it's every time.
Yep.
And
that's just something that does not occur to even think about with straight people. They just don't. It just doesn't occur to them to think about it. They just hold hands. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to just talking about this and how we have become aware of these situations and we've stood up to these things, but I also want to tie this to, because I feel like what we're seeing right now, it also goes to what we're seeing with January 6th. I'm going to tie these two together, is in so much as no one told. We're under the impression that that Trump did not directly communicate with the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, all these groups, but they understood the assignment. It's the same thing that we're getting from elected leaders like Ron DeSantis in Florida, who are saying, oh, gays are grooming, the gays are doing this. So people like, oh, we should go out and fight them. That's what happened on January 6th. We've seen this in the gay community for a number of years where they use coded language and people show up to assault us. But on January 6th, we saw that on a national level where people were saying, you need to show up, you need to fight, you need to stand up for your rights. And they got the message and they showed up. And I think that's where we as a country...
Well, in some regard, I don't even know that it was just sending a message, right? We're learning more and more in these hearings about what was actually going on.
Absolutely.
Behind the scenes.
And certainly there were elements there that had planned all along to be doing this, regardless of what they were being told.
Yeah. Kind of like what we saw in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho this weekend.
Right.
We saw a group that was planning for this.
And that's why I like these hearings, because sending a message, whatever. But this is actual concrete evidence that they are laying out very carefully, that the DOJ is definitely looking at. And that's why I think these hearings are a success. Sending a message, nah.
Yeah, and while we're on the subject of hearings, what have you thought of everything so far? Just, is there something that's come out to you that's really stood out?
I think that they're probably the best hearings that have happened in my lifetime.
Same here.
Absolutely. In terms of telling a story. When I worked on the Hill, it was very difficult to do a hearing because members' offices don't typically coordinate on what they're going to ask and how they're going to present things. So rather than having somebody say something and ask some questions and then the next person pick up those things and continue moving the ball forward, they're kind of disjointed. And I think we've all watched a congressional hearing or two in our time where we've been like, why did they just start a new line of questioning when they should have picked up on what the other person was saying before they ran out of time?
Yeah.
Well, that's something that they're doing such an amazing job here. I mean, first of all, they're not doing this thing that they do at all the hearings where it's opening statements from each member of the committee. We don't need those. That's all grandstanding. That's just for them to have a video clip to play on Fox News, MSNBC, or CNN that night. And I was talking with my mom and another friend of mine last week who were like hesitant to watch that first hearing because they said, "Oh, it's just going to make me mad." And I said, "No, watch this because everyone that's on that committee we're all rowing the boat in the same direction right now. There's no one there who's trying to gum up the works, who is trying to throw things off. And this is a mistake that Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans made. They could have had people on those committees.
Sure could have.
Yeah, but they chose their path, and now they don't have a say in anything that's going on in these committees because...
Well, I mean, and let's not mistake for a moment that there's not Republican representation on the committee. No,
there is true good Republican representation on the committee because, I mean, Kinzinger and Cheney, they are devout Republicans. They are hardcore. They voted with Trump.
A lot.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Liz Cheney voted with Trump more than her replacement, Elise Stefanik. Let's be honest. These are real Republicans, but they're also real Republicans who care about this country, and that's why it's fun to... not fun. Well, it is fun.
Yeah, well, Liz Cheney is honestly paying the price for it because her opponent is like 50 points ahead.
Yeah, they're saying she has like a 10% chance of winning her election in Wyoming. But also, into the point you were saying about the questioning and stuff like that, and that's what I think was so brilliant. And we kind of got to see it for the first time on Monday, and we're going to see it again today. They passed the baton to Zoe Lofgren, and she really got to dig in and go through these pieces of the puzzle for Monday's hearing. And today, Pete Aguilar is going to be leading the questioning, and I believe Kinzinger's got one coming up soon. So I look forward to seeing how Adam Kinzinger handles this as well. Do you have any expectations as far as today's hearing are concerned? Because I know we're going to be digging into the efforts and the pressure that was put on Mike Pence.
It'll be interesting. I think we've learned a little bit more every time there's been a hearing. So I'll be interested to see what they bring to us. What do we not know? Earlier in the week, maybe it was late last week, we learned that somebody may have testified that Trump said that Pence deserved what he was getting.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see if that is something they end up teasing out.
Well, they said that they would reveal who said that at the proper time and place. Today, why not today?
Right, why not today?
Today seems like a great day to do that. So we may get some video of that.